Plateau State government relaxes curfew imposed on Jos.
National security challenge to top agenda as Senate and House of Representatives resume plenary today.
Nigerian Labour Congress backs federal government's decision to ban states from taking bank loans.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall take a look at the permanent voters' cards and the 2019 general elections.
Now, Nigerians recently received disturbing news that the country's permanent voters' cards, that's the PVCs, were being cloned and sold online.
Now, on learning about this development, INEC said it had begun an upgrade of its system with a commitment to work with appropriate security agencies to address the issue.
The electoral umpire is, however, alarmed that over 7,900,000 Nigerians are yet to collect their PVCs, citing Lagos, Oyo, Edo, and Kano as states with the highest number.
Indeed, since 2015, an additional 9 million Nigerians or more are said to have been registered, with many more expected to get their names on the voters' roll.
You're absolutely right, Kingsley, and INEC hopes that when this is added to the existing over 60 million registered voters, the numbers should hopefully rise to about 80 million registered voters in 2019. That's that's fair.
That's right. It's a significant number.
Yeah.
Now, but what happens to the uncollected PVCs? INEC is said to be considering publicly destroying the unclaimed permanent voters' cards before next year's general elections to prevent the cards from being used by unscrupulous persons in the course of voting.
Now, what is INEC doing to tidy the stage for free and fair elections in 2019? Can Nigeria's permanent voters' card, that's the PVCs, can it actually be cloned? And what is being done to enhance PVC collection ahead of the 2019 general elections? These are indeed some of the questions we will engage our guests today on Good Morning Nigeria. And we thank you so much for joining us. We are reaching you on Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, and we are Africa's largest television network. I am Rhoda Anona. Thank you for joining us.
And I am Kingsley Osadolo. I join my colleague Rhoda in also welcoming you to this edition of the program, in the course of which we shall have our regular companion segments, and of course this will include newspaper review, business, foreign, and of course action from the World Cup. Anybody who watched last night's encounter between Japan and Belgium would know that indeed this is the Mondial. It happens only every 4 years, and a lot of action still coming up from that event later on today. But of course, we have our colleague right here with us in the studios, Claire Adelabu Abdulrazak, to give us the highlights of the morning news. Hi, Claire. I hope you watched the match.
I did. I wouldn't have missed it, Kingsley. Good to see you. And indeed, very worrisome development talking about the cloning of the PVCs and, of course, selling of PVCs online.
Well, it's a criminal offense in the first instance for those who think it's a joke.
Indeed.
Yes.
Indeed. But let's turn to Plateau State now, where we have some cheering news that the state government has approved the relaxation of the curfew imposed on Jos South, Riom, and Barikin Ladi local government areas from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Now, Secretary to the State Government, Rufus Bature, in a statement in Jos, says this follows relative peace and calm gradually returning to the affected areas.
We reduce the rate of our cooking so that when the time reaches, at least our food has finished by that time.
It affects my business because of the coffee. So I'm losing my customer and I'm losing my market too.
And as the wounds of insurgency are gradually healing, it has become imperative for every patriotic Nigerian to embrace peace in a renewed effort to end insurgents and herders farmers clashes, as well as its attendant loss of lives and property. President of the Alumni Association of the National Institutes, Khalid Bolaji, disclosed this at a media briefing here in Abuja.
The attack came at a time the security operatives are doing their best towards stemming the endless violence in the hands of disgruntled elements. The killings are unacceptable.
The president is on top of the situation. I want to believe that very soon he will do something to meet the expectation of Nigerians.
And residents of Ebutayo Ilara community in Ogijo area of Ogun State now live in fear, and that's following a fire outbreak from NNPC pipeline, which exploded at about 10 o'clock in the night Sunday, causing panic in the area, though it was reported that the incident did not claim any life.
So we don't know the source of it. It will vibrate before we explode. Everybody's scared, and we try to call the fire service.
No one can give the full details of how it happens, because when it is night, all these places always getting dark.
And the Senate says legislative intervention on strengthening national security, especially protection of lives and property, will continue to engage the legislators as they resume today. The Chairman House Committee on Media and Public Affairs, Aliu Sabe Abdullahi, said the issue of national security will be on the front burner of the National Assembly, which had been on a 3-week break for the Salah celebrations.
About the security situation in different parts of the country. We will work as an institution with Mr. President, President Muhammadu Buhari, give him every support that he needs and requires to tackle this very serious, debilitating situation.
When we resume, we'll begin to look at more concrete actions based on whatever discussion our principal officers have had with Mr. President.
And the Federal Road Safety Corps, FRSA, has reaffirmed its position in the establishment and management of a reliable and credible database on road traffic administration and safety management in Nigeria. The Corps Marshal of the FRSC, Dr. Boboye Oyeyemi, gave this in a paper presentation at the Africa Transport Policy Program held here in Abuja.
Transport is easy to bring the regional leaders. So with this, because they share, there are some cultural values, some levels which is shared together. And when it comes to capacity building, it's much easier to do things. So we believe this is one good example. When it comes to data management, you need a regional platform to be able to work on this.
And the Nigeria Labour Congress has backed the decision of the federal government to ban states from bank loans due to the huge debt burden on some of them, leading to non-payment of salaries. The Congress expressed the support at a public lecture to mark the 70th birthday of NLC General Secretary, Dr. Peter Ozeson.
Urge government to do everything possible. Nigeria will not sympathize with anybody that have borrowed such money, 5.8 trillion, and they are still living in their comfort zone. They should be arrested. Those money should be recovered. It's our commonwealth.
Africa is the continent of the future. We have very great potential. And to achieve that, it looks that we must improve on our human development index.
And finally, the French President Emmanuel Macron is expected to arrive in Nigeria today. While in the country, the president is expected to inaugurate the newly constructed state-of-the-art Alain Francais, located on Osborne Road, Ikoyi, on Wednesday, the 4th of July. The center, which will serve as the headquarters in Nigeria, will also serve as a center for the teaching of French language and culture, alongside others in Abuja, Port Harcourt, and other parts of the country. Members of the diplomatic community and top government officials are expected to attend the event slated for 10 o'clock. And those are the morning news. Don't forget to join me at 10 o'clock. That's for the news at 10. But meanwhile, Rhoda and Kingsley will be back to discuss the very vital issue of PVC cloning.
Unemployment, notably youth unemployment, features strongly in our party's manifesto. We intend to attack the problem frontally through revival of agriculture.
The 30K is going a long way. Actually, I bought an acre of land for 60K like 2012, and presently I have a cassava farm and a yam farm.
Reorganized, trained, and fully equipped, we are the new improved Nigeria Police Force. We fight crime. We bust syndicates. Whatever the crime, wherever the hideout, the Nigeria Police Force will get you busted. Stop kidnapping, armed robbery, murder, pipeline vandalism, and other criminal activities. Be productive. Be security conscious. Join the police force to secure your life and property. This message is from the Nigeria Police Force Public Relations Department.
The Nigerian broadcast sector is evolving. Operators, including cameramen and photographers, require new skills and techniques to churn out world-class productions. A unique opportunity is open to all. NTA TV College Jos is organizing a 4-week intensive short course in camera operation techniques aimed at enhancing the professional skills of cameramen and photographers, practicing and freshers. Date 16th July to 10th August 2018. Another 4-week intensive short course in photojournalism and photography holds 13th August to 7th September 2018. Venue for both courses is the TV College premises, NTA TV College, Rayfield, Jos. Fee 100,000 naira per participant. Accommodation inclusive. For more inquiries, contact us on 0806 980 9807 and 0703 660 7155. TV College, Jos. Training you to be the best you want to be.
You're welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria. In the world of business, the federal government has reaffirmed its determination to maximize the gains of nationwide SME clinics for the development of the economy. We have more details on this and other stories in the world of business with Comfort Amadu.
Now, the federal government is not leaving any stone unturned in maximizing the gains of the nationwide SME clinics, as its impact on the overall economic growth is huge. Special Assistant to the Vice President on Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, Tola Adekunle Johnson, who briefed news.
All right, well, we apologize. We can't continue with the business report. Right now, it will be time for us to take a look at the front pages of some of today's newspapers in our review session.
To give more depth to our review this morning is our regular newspaper reviewer, Bayo Atoyebi. Bayo, good morning.
Good morning, Ruga. Good morning, Kinsley.
Bayo, good to see you.
Welcome back. Some people called, they said they've not seen you since Super Eagles lost. Good morning, Nigeria.
When did the Super Eagles lose, by the way?
They lost.
They lost.
That's
true.
What
day of the week was that?
Yeah.
Why did you see the game?
It's an observation, and I couldn't answer, so I felt
I couldn't answer.
So
but of course, we were talking just before you came in that anybody who didn't watch Japan take on Belgium last night would have missed a cracker of a match. It was a thriller, probably the most entertaining so far. World Cup.
And you know, it just reminds us why we love the game, why the game is so beautiful, a remarkable comeback.
For me, it's when the unexpected happens in football. That's when football is very exciting.
That's right. But by the time, Russia saw off Spain in a penalty shootout, I always remembered what you said, that, look, if the World Cup is too predictable, it becomes unexciting. Okay, yes. That's right. So we've seen a number of giants go home. Of course, Argentina had to go home after beating Nigeria. And then, of course, Portugal went. Spain is gone.
Germany.
Germany, of course, one of the first to pack their baggage and out of the World Cup. Now we see the remainder for the struggle for the remaining positions in the last 8. Well, let's take a look at the papers this morning. The papers, the stories are more local. We begin with the New Telegraph. And that's a story that has come onto the front pages of the papers, either pictorially or editorially. New Telegraph comes with a double-decker headline. It says, policemen protest unpaid allowance, barricade headquarters. And it's Force Headquarters blames action on delayed budget. FPPO, that's to say that's the Force Public Relations Officer, personnel went for inquiry. That's what the police is saying. Details of that story can be found on page 2. But 2 other writers there. Presidency summons Inspector General of Police, and PDP, Borno protest unfortunate. You can see the 2 photographs on the front page of the New Telegraph there. The photographs of the mobile policemen or men of the mobile police unit who were protesting the non-payment of their 6-month allowances in Maiduguri, Borno State, which has also been the epicenter of Boko Haram activities. The story, as I indicated, is also there on the front page of Blueprint newspaper. This time is highlighted pictorially. You can see the photographs of some of the officers and men who were protesting yesterday in Maiduguri. But the story is immediately below the nameplates of Blueprint, and it says, Inspector General of Police dashes to Villa as police protest non-payment of salaries. Blueprint says salaries, others are reporting allowances. Rhoda.
Well, it's the same story is also the lead for the Daily Sun, and it says, it captions it this way, the Sun captions it this way. It says, policemen protest why we have not paid them. That's a writer, says Force Headquarters, and as Oshibajo summons IGP over unpaid allowances. It's also the picture story for the Daily Sun. Unfortunately, Bayo, we had the Force PRO, that's Deputy Commissioner of Police, Jimon Moshood, speaking extensively to this yesterday. He said it was a combination of salaries and allowances, and of course they had these issues with IPPIS and so some of the.
Well, salaries are part of the running costs, and usually from an existing budget, that would have been taken care of. But from the explanation that the Commissioner of Police, Borno State, Damian Chukwu, provided, he said what they were protesting about was allowances, and he attributed that to the delay in signing of the budget. That was the explanation he gave. But however, there are 2 sets of mobile police that are involved in security in Borno State. One set is with the Operation Lafia Adole, who are very permanent there. These ones that were allegedly protesting were the ones that were sent there for what has been described as attached operations, particularly to maintain law and order in Maiduguri, since peace is gradually returning to Maiduguri. So they are now protesting that because they are not permanent officers in that environment, they were posted there for temporary maintaining law and order. They don't have accommodation. Many of them are squatting here and there, and they will rely on their allowances to keep their sustenance. And that is why we had that. Newspapers too have been speculating, because the Inspector General of Police was seen at the presidency yesterday, at the office of the Vice President to be specific. And although there were no statements made about it, but they are inferring that it's related to that. And so apparently something is being done about it.
Yeah, Bayo, let's go to other headlines. But before we do that, you recall this is often the experience of the rank and file and the police who are sent on duties to at locations other than their normal operational basis. For instance, an election is coming up, and you say you have deployed so many thousands of policemen. Oftentimes, it's a question as to how much has been provided for their comfort or for their welfare in the course of such assignments. And what we find around the country is that to the extent that
even after the elections, they're still being owed.
Well, so they get owed, but what you find is that in the course of such assignments, whether for elections or otherwise, and in the absence of welfare provisioning by the appropriate office, the officers, some of them begin to mount checkpoints or roadblocks and extort motorists.
Yes, you see, the nature of the force is that obey before you complain. Usually, when they give them instructions, you must obey the order, and you move immediately. Subsequently, ideally, they are supposed to make arrangements for the welfare packages so that at least the officers will feel comfortable. Sure. Most often than not, subordinate officers don't have the courage, or they are not allowed, as the system is, to ask superior officers questions pertaining to some of these entitlements. And therefore, when they bottle them up for a long time, this is the kind of fallout you have. It's not the first time the police have protested, and it's very unusual. There were instances too in the armed forces when some of them were court-martialed. Some of them had to protest.
That's right. That was the court-martialing of the army officers.
Yes.
That was in Akure. But the police, you recall, went on strike in 2003.
Yes.
Very unusual. All right, let's return to the New Telegraph. Above the nameplate of the New Telegraph, Disco disconnects Imo government house over 200 million naira debt. State Secretariat in darkness, and government marks power firm's office for demolition. Details of that story on the front page with a jump to page 4. Again, court admits Dasuki to 200 million naira bail. That's on page 3. And below the nameplate, you have other headlines. It says, Johesu raises the alarm over victimization of health workers. Saraki's chief of staff dumps APC. That's on page 2. And police rescue Mikel Obi's father from kidnappers. Secondly story, right at the foot of the front page of the New Telegraph. That's below the 2 photographs of the protesting policemen in Maiduguri. Nobody can save Obasanjo from prosecution. That's according to Sage, with 2 riders. Fasoranti, Afenifere ready to protect him from arrests. Falono, ex-president playing ethno-religious politics. And lastly, air pollution may lead to diabetes. That's on page 10.
All right, on the Daily Sun, let's take the other stories that are trending on the Daily Sun. Just beside the nameplate, it says court grants ex-NSA Dasuki bail, orders immediate release. And if you come down, just beside the picture story, Plateau killings, military parades, 11 suspects. It's on page 5 of the Daily Sun. And also on page 8, federal government playing double standard with killings, says Catholic bishop. And fuel explosion, Lagos to prosecute tanker owner and driver. That's a story that's on page 12. By those development yesterday with the NFF. And it's at the foot of the paper on the Daily Sun. It says Chris Giwa takes over NFF office as a panic kicks. That's on page 45. That was news that broke yesterday, saying that a court judgment should be upheld.
Yes, the Supreme Court had ruled certifying that Chris Giwa should be the president of the Nigerian Football Federation. And immediately, the Minister for Youth and Sport directed the NFF to comply with that order. Mr. Chris Giwa has already resumed at the Glass House, and he held a meeting with staff and declared that he will not waste time deliberating about past events. However, he promised that he will support all the national teams, and he says the Nigerian Professional Football League will not be disrupted. Meanwhile, he says the plans of his administration for Nigerian football will be made known after board meeting on Friday. Meanwhile, our running story, there is an update about the Lagos Otedola Bridge fire. Death toll is now reported to be 12. 10 of them were at the scene. 2, unfortunately, died later on at the hospital from severe burns. But meanwhile, the 5 victims of various varying degrees of burns are still receiving treatment in hospital. The commissioner for Lagos State has declared that the driver of the vehicle and the vehicle owner will be prosecuted. Meanwhile, families of those who have died are enjoined to come forward for samples to be taken so that they will perform DNA tests to give the bodies to the appropriate families. Meanwhile, the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja has granted Colonel Sambo Dasuki retired bail. You may recall that since December 29, 2015, he had been detained. The court ruled that the custodial punishment meted on him cannot be justified. The judge says the movement of those prosecuting him from one court to the other is like round-tripping for court cases for the same alleged offense. Meanwhile, the Plateau crisis issue, there have been some development. The curfew imposed on 3 local governments has now been relaxed. It's now from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. The commander Operation Safe Haven in Plateau has reported that 14 persons have been arrested. In another report in the Nation, it says 21 suspects have been arrested. And the coincidence in these two reports is that 11 of them were arrested for their involvement in the 13th of June killing, while 14 others were arrested for disturbances around the scene. Meanwhile, the Catholic Bishop of Nigeria have urged President Muhammadu Buhari to urgently save Nigeria from doom or step aside. The statement by the conference president and the secretary, Augustine Akuweze, as well as Camillus Umo, says that ongoing killings in the country, particularly in the Middle Belt and other parts of the country, by herdsmen were signs of anarchy. If the president cannot keep our country safe, then he automatically loses the trust of citizens. In another development, the British Broadcasting Corporation has reported that fake news currently circulating on the social media is fueling farmer headers crisis in Nigeria. It identifies some of the pictures that were from crisis in 2011 that has been posted on the social media as recent. Another one was of a traffic accident 2015 in the Dominican Republic, but it's been circulated on the social media as outcome of incidences in Plateau. And again, in Nigeria, All Media Line has apologized for publishing a story that Emieti Alaman had justified killing in Plateau because 300 cows were killed. There were no such report. The reporter who filed that false report has been sacked.
All right, Bayo, very quickly, let's take other stories. On the leadership, you have the lead story there. It says, unmask those behind killings. Gowon tells federal government, says justice must be served to culprits and victims. Troops arrest 11 suspects. Plateau state government relaxes curfew. And above that, you see policyholders recoup 540 billion naira claims from insurance firms. And the story I read earlier is on the footer of the paper. Giwa replaces Pinnick as NFF president. Farmers raise the alarm over fake fertilizers. And AFCFTA can stimulate Nigeria's economy by $2.9 billion. Those are the stories trending on the leadership.
All right, Bayo, I mean, we didn't have time to discuss the NFF issue. That's another chapter in the unending crisis that is afflicting the NFF. Yes. There are, of course, all kinds of legal issues arising therefrom, since the matter is still largely sub judice, so we'll refrain from making comments now. But FIFA has its own ways of dealing with these matters. NFF is not a government parastatal. NFF is an affiliate of FIFA, which is an international non-governmental organization. Incidentally, it's also regarded as an
anything to go by. Usually, when there are pronouncements that come from courts, FIFA tend to respect them. Where there are interference from government in the affairs of the NFF, that is when FIFA comes in. So let's see how that
plays out. Very quickly, other headlines from Blueprint newspaper. 2 earpieces there. Sorry, 1 earpiece and another one story below that. It says that's Blueprint. 2019, National Assembly transmits fresh Electoral Act Amendment Bill to Buhari. That's on page 6. And Ekiti governorship election, 30,000 security operatives won't be armed. That's according to the police. We hope they will provide for their welfare as well. Details of that story can be found on page 21. Lead story for Blueprint, killings, conspiracy against Buhari. That's according to the presidency. Says president will break new record in 2019 election. Nigeria hits 10,000 megawatts in December. Stop blame game. That's according to the PDP. And below the photograph there, the headline, Nigeria's population causing federal government sleepless nights. That's according to Adewale. You have other headlines there.
Yes, talking about the Electoral Act. Yes, the National Assembly has forwarded the amended Electoral Act to the President for assent. You recall that the President declined assent, raising objection. It is explained that those sections for which the President expressed reservations have been expunged, and it was sent with the intention of beating deadline for amendment before election. The other story of concern is the words of wisdom from former head of state General Yakubu Gowon, and he has warned that President Muhammadu Buhari should identify, arrest, and deal with those responsible for the killing across the country. And he says specifically, Nigeria needs to love together and condemn, and come together and condemn all persons who are involved in animosity, bloodletting, and clashes, and hate speeches. He says, were it not for the God's grace and mercy over Nigeria, the nation would have been plunged into another round of crisis. He says the authorities should deal with culprits and bring justice to the grieved.
All right, Bayo, let's take a look at to this editorial, which is coming from the Nigerian Pilot, and it's on page 3 of the Nigerian Pilot. The editorial is on page 3 of the Nigerian Pilot, and it's on NPDHC. That stands for the Niger Delta Power Holding Company. And the question, according to the editorial, is where is the 10 trillion naira electricity investment? Just before you comment on the editorial, Bio, let's, if we can, the cameraman can focus on the cartoon above that editorial. You will see that cartoon there. It's very, very instructive, and this is part of the complaints that you often hear. That's the cartoon. It says, federal government agric intervention. You can see the beneficiary, label the politician, and then the real farmer. So these are the political farmers on the left. That's the representative of the political farmers on the left. And the real farmer there remaining pauperized, while the other guy is apparently weighed down by the benefits from the federal government.
I wonder what he's carrying. Is it bags of fertilizers or bags of rice?
Fertilizer and other seedlings and so on and so forth. All right, but let's take a look now at the editorial. That's where is the 10 trillion naira electricity investment? And the question is directed at the Niger Delta Power Holding Company.
Well, you recall that the concern about electricity is the fact that the quantum of investment that has been put into electricity since 1999 up to date, that is not replicated from the quantum of darkness we seem to have. The emphasis has always been that the monies meant for investment into the electricity sector were not actually justifiably expended. You recall that the president also raised an objection and said from the records he discovered that about $10 billion were the investment that has been in electricity, and he said, where is the power? So that question has agitated the minds, and members of the National Assembly have also, on several occasions, committees have investigated this. Sometimes they have arrested the case, and on another occasion, so this same issue has been raised. There's need, therefore, for the corrupt investigating agencies, EFCC, ICPC, and all those who are concerned, to find out the facts and then ensure that were justifiably expended.
All right, thank you very much, Bayo Atoyebi, for the review this morning. It's just Tuesday. I hope we'll see you again tomorrow morning, God willing.
Thank you for having me today.
All right, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and our conversation will be up in just a moment, and we're looking at, of course, a lot of issues surrounding the permanent voters card and the 2019 election. Of course, a lot of people have been disturbed by a recent, an alleged cloning of the PVCs. We have guests here in the studio who will be speaking to that and other issues concerning the permanent voters card, but that will be after this break.
Hate speech is not a joke. It incites genocide and crimes against humanity. Most of Africa's civil wars are caused by hate speech from one tribe against another. We don't want it here. The Nigerian government stands firm against hate speech.
Under no conditions whatsoever should we tolerate or excuse or justify hate speech or hateful conduct of any kind, especially where such is illegal.
There's no doubt that the resurgent push for separatism, as well as the rising cases of ethnic and religious disharmony, are all traceable to the growing phenomenon of hate speech.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
Brought us as usual.
As usual.
You
have no problem. You are welcome, sir.
As usual, yeah?
You take that one. You take that one. You don't understand? We want Nigeria homegrown rice. Finish. You don't have? You don't have?
Join the rice revolution today.
No other rice that tastes like Nigerian rice. Are you sorry? That's the Nigerian rice we are talking about. Chocolate made in Nigerian rice. Healthy food. I'm going to bring Mrs. Mobu. to come to chocolate rice of made in Nigeria here. And see how it are made.
Correct.
And how they are cook it.
Correct.
Homegrown rice are good for your health. It boosts our economy and give employment to our people.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
The NTA Television College Jos admission forms for diploma program in film and television production, television engineering technology, broadcast journalism, and degree programs in mass communication, television journalism, and mass communication television production is now on sale. The sale of forms will commence 14th May and run to 13th August 2018 at the cost of 7,500 Naira only per form, payable through the remitter platform in favor of NTA Television College Jos. Forms can be obtained from all marketing offices in NTA State Capital Stations, zonal centers, Training Directorate of the NTA Headquarters Abuja, and the Office of the Academic Secretary of the NTA Television College. Applicants are required to possess 5 credits in GCE, SSCE in relevant areas of study, including English and mathematics, in not more than 2 sittings. All completed forms attached with photocopies of credentials must be submitted on or before the 13th of August 2018 to the stations where the forms were obtained. For further inquiries, please contact the Office of the Academic Secretary on these numbers. Announcer, Registrar.
You're welcome back, but if you just joined us, it's Good Morning Nigeria. We are reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. As a prompt for our conversation this morning on the PVCs and the 2019 general elections, let's take this background report by our correspondent, Oyemi Ajayi.
The news about an online tweet on cloning and subsequent sale of permanent voter cards is receiving a lot of condemnation in Nigeria. The Independent National Electoral Commission, which confirmed the report, says it anticipated these and had proactively taken measures to preserve and further secure the electoral materials. INEC further explained that several security features and secret source codes are contained in the smart card readers, which enable them read only PVCs duly issued by the Commission, and so they cannot be successfully cloned. The electoral umpire says it would engage the government, security agencies as well as the promoters of the platform to investigate the matter. However, INEC has said that despite efforts to encourage collection of voter cards, a lot of unclaimed cards are still in its offices nationwide. And so it is considering burning unclaimed permanent voter cards before next year's general elections as part of ways to prevent them from being used to manipulate elections. And the burning process will be made public for all Nigerians to witness. The Commission further disclosed that the continuous voters registration currently ongoing across the nation would be temporarily stopped 60 days to February 16, 2019, which is the date for commencement of the general election due to a change in Nigeria's electoral law.
Now, thank you very much, Oyemi Ajayi, for that background report. And joining us in our Abuja studios here is the Deputy Director, Voter Registrar at the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. Is Paul Ayeze. It's a pleasure to have you. Good morning, Nigeria.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
And also joining us here in our studios is the Head Administration and Human Resource at the Youth Initiative for Advocacy, Growth and Advancement. And she is Yaga Victoria Manya. She is also a barrister at law. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
All right, 2 other guests who are with us on this conversation will have with us in the studios here in Abuja. The National Coordinator in the Office for the Nigerian Content Development in ICT. That's a subsidiary, we understand, of the National Information Technology Development Agency, NIDA. It's Kasim Sodengi. Mr. Sodengi, pleasure to have you with us on the program.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
From our Kaduna Network Center, we have the Administrative Secretary of INEC in Kaduna State, Mohammed Alwal Mashi. Thanks a lot for being with us on the program.
Good morning.
All right, so let's begin by first understanding what has gone viral with regard to the reported cloning or attempt to clone PVCs issued by INEC. Mr. Anyeze, what is the story that you have confirmed with regard to this attempt, or indeed if the process has already been completed?
The Commission has issued a statement on that, and they issued another statement yesterday. And I'm sure by now everybody knows that that side has been brought down. That particular doesn't have been brought down. On our part, we have a lot of security measures on our cards. There are different keys for different things on the card.
Sorry, Mr. Anyeze, before you get into the details, that's why I said give us a background for the benefit of our viewers who may not have had access to the statements issued by INEC. I have those statements, we have read them, we have digested them for the benefit of our viewers. If you say a site has been taken down, what was the name of the site? For how long did the site operate, and what was the site doing?
It's Alibaba. It's an online market site, Alibaba, and it was just their normal mode of selling the items. And I think when the Commission saw it, when I saw it, I tried to contact the director of ICT. He told me that the Commission is only reacting, and that was the statement you got in the Commission. From the Commission, we saw it, and then we know that we just tell Nigerians that it will not affect our own cards and 2019 their election.
So what did you see? Was it that PVCs were being sold on the marketing
I would say what I saw there was just like a base card. It was just a base card. It wasn't. It's not. I not call it permanent voters card. It was just a base card that has the INEC background on it. It has not been personalized to anybody or to anything. So I'm sure it's just an ordinary base card with no security features on it. That's all. That's all. Yeah.
All right. Let's bring in Kasim, Mr. Kasim Sodenge. Mr. Kasim Sodenge, what do you know of this incident? Before, as he claimed, the site has been brought down. If the site doesn't belong to INEC, how could the site have been taken down if it's Alibaba and that's a trading online company?
Yeah, clearly, the INEC, we start by commending INEC for the response time. It's phenomenal. It was impressive, the manner in which INEC approached the issue. Clearly, what happened was that there was a communication with the online marketplace on it's not so much the site, but the particular advert on those cards, how it contravened laws and then how it had the capacity to cause mischief. So clearly, INEC was quite proactive, and dealt with the matter deftly. Even though I think that it's also time for some introspection and for consideration of the wider issues of the use of technology, as an e-government tool and by government, there's need for more systemic thinking. As he said, some of these things are foreseeable, even in the statements put out by INEC. So how do we handle situations like this to ensure, the learnings are curated and used so that these sort of things don't happen again? Those are the vital questions moving forward.
All right, Victoria Mayo, let's have your take on this with regard to how did you apprehend the news of the alleged attempts to clone the PVCs?
Okay, so for me, I saw it on Instagram actually, and immediately I went to INEC's site to see if INEC had responded once it was posted on an online blogger's page. And INEC, yes, had responded. However, I do see this as capable of affecting the confidence the electorate have in the capacity of INEC to protect the cards. The response, yes, we see a responsive INEC. Immediately, a statement was released. However, what next? What is INEC doing? How do you reassure Nigerians that this would not affect the 2019 elections? Because as it is, we see INEC, quote and unquote, blowing hot and cold. There is a responsive INEC, however, there is a negligent INEC to some school of thought. So how INEC responds to this...
What do you mean? Say that INEC is negligent.
So in my opinion, I think the PVCs are shouldn't have been in the first place found on the site. So this is something that could have been prevented beforehand. If you go on Twitter, a lot of people believe that that does not look like, or what was found on the Alibaba site does not resemble a copy. It looks more like a clone. So a lot of people are saying, was there a leak from INEC? Did people know, or did somebody get a copy of the PVCs from INEC? These are questions INEC needs to deal with thoroughly, or else it would affect the outcome of the elections in 2019.
All right, thank you very much. Now let's go to our Kaduna Network Center, where we have the Administrative Secretary of INEC in Kaduna State, that's Muhammad Awal Mashi. How did you receive the news of this cloning?
Indeed, I received it from the net and from my from official sources. It's rather unfortunate, but it is happening. But like my colleague just said, Mr. Ayaze, the Commission is on top of the situation. We have very special features in the PVCs and the smart card readers. So whoever wants to, let them go ahead and do it. But the bottom line is that they can never succeed. It will never work. No matter how much they try, it can never work. I want to guarantee the nation that all is going to be well at the end of the day.
Well, thank you. Let's come back again to deal with the technological aspects of this. Kasim Sudengi, tell us something. Is the country, let's say Nigeria, is Nigeria overreacting to what was put out there on the site? Because there are some kinds of spoof you find on site. People will be advertising U.S. permanent residence card. You find that. You find all kinds of things relating to, that's to say, the green card and all kinds of things. Could this have been just one of those, instances of mischief to which, as I'm asking, we are overreacting?
Counterfeiting, cybersecurity, these are concerns that are with us, and this case isn't so different. But rather, an understanding of the problem has to be within the wider, broader context of the use of technology and the systems, you see, where integrity systems are required, where especially there are political and incendiary issues. Extra care needs to be taken in developing, utilizing, and deploying technology, which is why, NIDA's position has always been, and more recently by the stellar work of the current Director General, Dr. Isa Ali Pantami, putting together a very coherent team to ensure that where systems will be used for sensitive issues like electioneering, or personal identifiers, or for registration cards and so on. There are complex sort of approaches to ensure that this type of situations are taken care of. So for us, we feel that it is important that, and as INEC has also indicated it will do, there needs to be engagement with NIDA, because NIDA has, more than any other unit within government, the competencies required to assess and say, should we go the route of cards? Cards are okay, but are cards what we need due to the sensitivity of the issue? Should we look at other forms of identifiers, other kinds of technology? You see, we must also understand human and non-technological issues as a key aspect of delivery of technology. So NIDA has that vehicle and mechanism through the review and advisory process, based on its acts, of course, to advise agencies of government, and we've been doing so from the CBN to Identity Management Commission and so on, to ensure that the process is holistic. So straight to the answer, indeed, the cards are secure, we know, they have features that are good, but the question still remains. It needs to be considered in light of other developments, available technology, and capacities that are available. I think that there can be enhancements into that whole process and that delivery of that service.
Is it possible to clone a PVC and you use it in the course of an election?
With the way the INEC cards are designed, it is really difficult to use counterfeits. I wouldn't want to use impossibilities. It's almost impossible to use counter. However, we know that before electioneering itself or during the process, there could be rancor around polling booths. People could use that as a deliberate tactic, to affect each other. And then it, like the lady from Yaga said, it then crumbles confidence. You see, these are some of the issues that are not directly technological, but they're incidental. So therefore, a consideration in design of the technology is very necessary, because these are things that are foreseeable, So the question going forward is, what do we do? Because the underlying systems themselves are decent and are good. But do we, long term, what is the viability of cards? And are there technologies that are perfect substitutes for using cards or other forms of identification? Those are the questions.
So then you create the impression that apparently NIDA didn't quite feature in INEC's consideration while it was rolling out its PVCs and card readers.
Well, in 2015, the engagements were not deep enough. And then, like I said, as at that time, NIDA also had was reorganizing largely. But currently, going forward, we expect to engage, and INEC to engage NIDA very closely. Because going forward, these are things that can be corrected, even in use of resources, so that we prevent duplicity, because there are so many cards. NIMSI is printing cards. Their driver's licenses are being printed around the country. BVN exists with, at the back of it, their personal identifiers with biometrics. So the question is, going forward, we're almost duplicating some of these efforts. So, we commend INEC for its foresight when it did what it did, but it's time to come back to the drawing board and look at the wider issues. Because, like I said, if these things are not addressed, if people come with even cards that are not nearly closed and start making a lot of trouble outside polling booths, we may have a situation where, voter confidence is challenged. So we really want to engage with INEC to ensure these things are sorted as quickly as possible. Thank
you very much, Mr. Sodengin. I'd like Mr. Polayezi to also speak to the issue of the fact that can our cards be cloned? And I understand what Mr. Sodengin is saying. We've seen instances where in polling booths, where you have card reader issues and they say, okay, everybody just go ahead and just vote. And so at that instance, you see people who have the cloned one or the fake one being able to vote. Or where you have card reader issues, you have to say, okay, go ahead and make a complaint, but then you can still go ahead and vote. And of course, that confidence is lost.
Yeah, Mr. Sodengi, we agree that technology is always evolving. In 2003, we were working closely with NIDA. Like you said, around 2015, NIDA started their reform, but we still engage with NIDA. Now, coming to the question, cards are duplicated everywhere. Even this one that we are shouting about, it was done in Ilorin here, in the business center in Ilorin. They were duplicating those cards. So what has the commission done? The commission has discovered that it is possible for people to go and get cards anywhere and come to vote. In 2015, we did something that if your card cannot be read by the card reader, you should go and fill incident form. Now the commission has moved a bit from that point. There will be no incident form again. Any card you are bringing will be read by the card reader. The card reader itself has been enhanced. Hardware enhancement and software enhancement. The surface that we press has been enlarged so that you don't say maybe because the surface is tiny, that's why you cannot capture. Now, if at the end of the day it cannot capture you, we will now check the register itself. If your name is there, then the machine can automatically recapture your fingerprint, thereby increasing the database of our fingerprint. So it is not possible in going forward for any card to be used in an election.
So you're saying that if a card reader cannot read a card, then yes, automatically probably the person might not be able to vote?
No, I said if the card reader cannot read a card, there will be no incident form. We will just go and check the EVR, the voter register. If your name is there with your picture, your name is there with your picture, then the card will be made to recapture your fingerprint. And then you can go and you'll be authenticated and vote.
Well, still with you, Mr. Paula.
On election day.
On election day, yes.
Well, still with you, Mr. Paula, again, tell us, how useless is a cloned PVC in the hands of a potential voter who turns up on election day?
Yeah, that's why it's very useless to that person because, one, if the card reader cannot read you, in 2015 it could have been possible. It's okay, cannot read me, but this is my card, it's okay, go and vote. You fill incident form. But going forward, there is nothing like, starting from Ekiti, that we are doing on the 14th, there will be no incident form. The card readers have been enhanced in such a way that if you cannot capture immediately, you will now go and check if you're on the register of voter, because your picture is there already, and the card with you is your picture, and we say that it's our card. You will now go back, then the machine will now capture you. It will capture at least 2 fingers on this side, 2 fingers on this side, because that's when you are qualified to vote. You must have 2 fingers captured on the side, at least 2 fingers captured on the side. So that's our business rule.
I'm sorry, if a person is suffering from leprosy and then you don't have that, what happens?
No, people with leprosy, already we have what we call special registration for them. When you come to a registration center, they will snap the hand to show that you have problems with your fingers, and then they capture you. In that case, you don't need, on an election day, you don't need to thumbprint on the card reader to be able to authenticate. The machine will authenticate you because you're a special registrant.
I'm actually worried about the fact that, people, if this happens, which we've already seen in most elections, having challenges with card reader machines, that, in that kiosk, people wanting to vote, you are now saying you're capturing someone again. Would that time be there?
Well, that's one question. I mean, Ayeza is here, but we allow the other guests to also respond to this. Iaga, that's Victoria Mania. Look, you listen to the INEC Deputy Director talk now about the enhanced integrity of the card reader. Now, since 2015, we know that there have been challenges with card readers. 2015 and another subsequent elections, whether supplementary or staggered elections. What information are you receiving? Are you certain that, indeed, we have overcome the teething problems with the card reader, and therefore, it can be a good device, for everybody to rely on, whether or not somebody has the potential to cause mischief?
Of course, INEC has tried to reinforce the integrity of the card reader because from 2015 you had a situation post-elections during election petition tribunals that INEC officials will come to say, oh, it's still loading. When the court is asking you, what is the database? What's the total data of number of votes cast in favor of a political party from the card reader to the database? And you hear responses like, "It's still loading." I think INEC has tried to take care of the teething problems, like you put it. But my fear is, right now we have a slow process in the CVR. So, and this is CVR, this is not E-Day. So when comparing that to the E-Day when you do not have enough time on your hands, what happens? Like she has rightly pointed out, if you have a problem with your card and someone is saying, an INEC official is saying, oh, we will recapture you, right? There is a long queue already, right? And who knows how fast is the machine in question. But I would say that there are CSOs that have been trying to help the technological capacity of INEC with regards to this. Hopefully, it pans out well for
Well, I'm
INEC.
talking about CSOs, and NIDA, it's a government agency. Again, so then again, we bring you into the conversation. What is it that, what is it should bother us with regard to the card readers, notwithstanding the assurances about the enhanced integrity of that card reader? We have two elections close by. That's to say the Ekiti governorship and the Osun governorship. But our major concern, of course, will have to do with the 2019 general elections, where we have multiple and simultaneous deployment.
So I'll say off the bat that, until NIDA sees, the entire architecture of how the thing is set up currently, I may not be able to offer a real critique, But generally speaking, I'll say to you that it's important to see the architecture, to see the technology and system. So it's one thing to see the localized technology, like the cards, and see it functioning, physically. But where the risks are the systemic issues, the entire design and implementation. We know that at some points, INEC has done what they can with engagements, but we think that it should be deeper. We know that also dealing with contractors and suppliers, you see, they want to make money. So they will come and give you what they best can. They are motivated by money. But that's where NIDA, as an agency of government, with the technical capabilities, looking across the spectrum on technology, we'll say to INEC, you see, because some of the things that Ms. Manya has described are just technology architecture issues. Either the size of bandwidth you're using or the type of technology, or if you can even use simpler and more effective, technology. So for NIDA, it's important that there's a deeper engagement with the systems as they are, so that we can see, considering we have elections are upon us, so to speak. There are short-term things that can be done. But so like I said, we need to see what's on ground officially and properly. That's one, so that we can enhance. We know that they're going through system sort of software updates and hardware, but it's important that we do a quick audit, you see, so that we can make valuable suggestions on what to do in terms of the technological and which are quite important, non-technological issues, and then issues of cybersecurity on the short term. Then medium to long term, there's also strategizing that can be done.
You talk about cybersecurity, and of course, these are issues that have also engaged us on Good Morning Nigeria. But in relation to elections, we have also, in recent times, heard of reports of how there has been technological invasion into the electoral space, such that the electoral outcomes have been compromised. How much of a risk does Nigeria stand in this regard, 2019?
There's always a risk with cybersecurity. However, it is surmountable, as we've seen from around the world. And that is why the research and sort of cybersecurity units and department and the entire CERT, facilities exist within NIDA. The idea is to keep ahead or ahead of the pack. So usually it is being able to forecast and simulate scenarios for cybersecurity. That is why expert agencies of government are important for this kind of engagements, because we have a holistic view into what suppliers may not say, into what contractors will not be willing, because it may affect their own cost and so on. So in truth is that cybersecurity is a potent threat, but there are capacities, there's knowledge, and there are scenarios to take care of a number of these and reduce them considerably to close to 99%, to manage electioneering and other sensitive systems.
Let's go to Kaduna now, where we have Muhammad Awal. I'd also like you to speak to the issue that Kingsley just raised, because just concluded elections, even in the U.S., we saw that technology was actually used in one way or the other to, sort of compromise or wanting to undermine the process of that election. What is, also it brings to mind the question of why is anybody interested in cloning our cards? Why is there that interest in our own election from whatever quarters you want to talk about it? But then how is INEC allaying the fears of people that, look, PVCs or card readers will not be compromised even in the coming elections that we have now, like Ekiti and Osun?
You see, it's just like my colleague said, and like I said earlier, technology can never be perfect. The gentleman from NIDA has just confirmed it. Even in the United States of America and other climes that are technologically more advanced than us, technologies have never been perfect. So we shouldn't expect the same here. But the good thing, like I said earlier, is that the Commission has taken it upon itself to ensure that whatever we do it as perfectly as possible. We have been working with NIDLA, like the gentleman said, and we will continue to do that. And I want to believe that ultimately, no matter how much they try, they'll never succeed. We are going to have a perfect election, and all the permanent voters' cards can never be cloned, and the cloned ones can never be used during the elections. That I can guarantee.
Wondering, just before we have tweets that have come in already, Rhoda, but still with Mohammed Mashi in our Kaduna Network studios. We're talking generally about the PVC. Well, of course, the trigger for the conversation has to do with the alleged attempt at cloning it. And Ayeze here has explained what will happen if you were to go with your PVC to a voting center. Now, tell us something. What also happens in the case of a transferred PVC? A PVC ordinarily should not be transferable. If a PVC is transferred, my name is Kingsley and Victoria is here, or as I say, okay, maybe let's say for the purpose of this conversation, she's Victor. I say, Victor, take this card, go and use it. Or I know my age, and then I have an underage person who is in possession of a card. What happens? What do we know about the capacity of INEC to deal with clearly underage voting or transferred PVCs?
The issue of underage voting is something that we have been trying to deal with. There have been allegations, and as a matter of fact, an incident happened recently. When I was in Niger State, we had an issue in one of the local governments. The staff tried to stop people that are clearly underage from being registered. But unfortunately, the people within the vicinity took it upon themselves to even begin to be violent. We had to withdraw them from that place. So as far as the issue of underage is concerned, it's something that we have been trying our best, and we will continue to do our best to ensure that the right thing is done. Now, as per the issue of transfer, it's something that is very clear and straightforward. Anybody that is transferring from one place to another, there are certain processes and procedures that have to be followed to ensure that the right thing is done. And ultimately, the person that is supposed to be transferred will be transferred, and no one else can use that card during election to vote because of the inbuilt things that we talked about earlier.
I'd like you to answer that question also.
He transfer his card to Victor.
Yeah.
Yes, the law says you go for 5 years imprisonment.
How would you detect that? How would you detect that?
I mean, it's very easy. When you transfer your card, definitely you have not transferred your fingerprints. Okay. You have not transferred your picture. So definitely you'll be detected. That's clear.
You see, the reason is,
if
you recall, on Good Morning Nigeria, in the course of the CVR, which is the Continuous Voters Registration, there were reports of illegal registration centers. People had taken some of the data capturing machines into certain localities, and they were bringing all kinds of persons to be registering with the hope of stacking up the PVCs and then distributing them on election day to go and use. Every person who's monitored election in this country would know normally what happens. That's the kind of transfer I'm talking about. Not me as Kingsley transferring from, say, Lagos to Abuja or from Abuja to Lagos. I'm saying, yeah, so how would you detect such a person? I know you talked about the sanction.
Going forward.
Yes.
I mean, all this thing will have happened between 2015 and maybe like yesterday. But from this July 14th, we have enhanced the card reader. Like she said, that before now, it takes time to upload. The software has also been upgraded that the thing picks up Wi-Fi anywhere and transfers the data immediately to our server. So going forward, you can check us out in July 14th in the kitty. There's no way you could come with somebody else's card and vote, because there's nothing like incident form again. What they do then is they come with the card, they put the card there, they press, it's not detected. They say you are not authenticated, go and fill incident form. That's how such people could have voted. But now, no incident form. The card reader must just detect you before you can vote. So all those things they are doing as of today is a waste.
All right. The elections you're talking about, they're just a few days away. And, of course, we'll be back on the program to actually look at the issues of the card reader and, of course, the cards that you have raised. And from there, maybe solutions will be preferred for them. But then would like to give voices to your messages that you have sent via Twitter handle at NTAGM. And remember, if you have questions, you have comments on what we're discussing this morning, you can tweet at us at Twitter handle at NTAGM. And our first tweet is from Festus Akimboyo. It says, accurate voter register would render any cloned PVC useless. We should be more concerned about the apparent lack of interest in the 2019 election by many Nigerians, which is the reason they are not collecting their PVCs.
We have this from Lawal Olaya. Lawal Olaya is tweeting, I'm a patriotic citizen. I have collected my PVC. I'm ready to exercise my civic duty, and every good Nigerian should do the same.
Sani Michael Omakoji tweeted, said it's really unfortunate and that instead of strengthening our institutional framework geared towards deepening our democracy, ours is to clamp it down. The rumors about PVC is gaining momentum, and it's high time governments wage a war against this enemy of our democracy.
Victor Uyoswama tweets, INEC should improve on the security features of the PVCs to make it difficult or impossible to clone, as attempts at cloning will continue to be made. This is not the first time an allegation of cloning of PVCs is coming up.
Abdul Musa says mischief makers can go any lengths to cause problem for the electoral body in order to make the citizens lose confidence in their ability to conduct free and fair elections. The security agencies must go to the root of the matter as a proactive measure to avert this chaos. Those are the tweets that we have. Continue to send in your tweets. We'll take a break now, and when we come back, there's also the issue of uncollected PVCs across the country. That's a high number. And when we come back, we'll be looking at that, so stay with us.
Nigerians. Suicide bombers are not spirits. They are not ghosts. They are human beings like you and me. They live amongst us. They are your neighbors. They are your friends today, but terrorists tomorrow. So you must know your neighbor now. Security begins with you and me. Know your neighbor. Be vigilant.
Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me.
If you see something, say something. Nigeria, unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Hold it! Me! I don't come out my hand from oil bunkering.
General, what you going to yarn? What did the yarn serve? I don't understand though.
Because they spoil our water and our environment. And they cause our people serious harm. Militants said, you know good. Me, I not do again Sam. Because why? Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
All right, you're welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria. We still have our guests right here with us in the studios. We've been discussing, of course, attempts at cloning the PVC, what the implications are and what the issues are. Allied to that, it's also the issue that my colleague Rhoda popped up just before we went on that short break, namely the high number, or the large numbers, if you like, of uncollected PVCs in various parts of the Federation. So let's bring in our guest again to continue this conversation. Let's go first to Kaduna Mohammed Awar Mashi. Malam Mashi, tell us something. What do we know about PVC collection in Kaduna, and therefore how many persons have collected their PVCs, if you have any record of it in your state?
First, we have to look at the number of registered voters before the 2015 general election. Here in Kaduna, it was 3,417,079. Then the CVR from from April 27th last year to December 31st, 316,000. So the total number of registered voters in Kaduna State currently stands at 3,734,018. Now, coming to the issue of PVCs. Uncollected PVCs for the registered voters in the state before the CVR began in August was 172,691. Then for the PVCs, as at 26th, we had 101,000. Total, 276,000. So far, the only total that has been received is just over 18,000 in Kaduna State, 18,093, which in percentage terms is just around 12 to 15%. And that is terribly poor. That is unacceptable, really.
Account for what you describe now as a poor collection rate of PVCs. All right. Malam Mashi, I'm asking what factors account for what you described as the poor collection rate of PVCs?
If I were to look at it from my own perspective, I would say it's apathy. The Commission has been trying its very best to ensure that people come out to vote, to register. We did. If we had our way, we could have gone to all the 119,973 PUs we have in Nigeria to go and do the registration. But unfortunately, the Commission cannot do it because of the financial implication. So we tried as much as possible to go as close as possible to the people. Initially, if we take Kaduna State, for instance, we have 23 local governments. The PVC collection centers were the local government headquarters. Eventually, people were expected to go and register and, of course, collect the PVCs. But eventually, the Commission, in its wisdom, decided to expand by making provision for more of these centers. And that has been the case. But unfortunately, as I'm talking to you now, people are still being pathetic.
Well, Mashi, now, Mr. Paul Aeze, I'm aware that Lagos, Kano, or your Edo State has the highest number, but then officially, across board. So what's the number of uncollected PVCs that we have?
Okay, let me just start. Let me throw this line. By 2015 general elections, we had 69 million as registered voters and 61 million collected PVC. That's about 88%.
Sorry, sir?
In 2015, in the 2015 general election,
Yes.
okay, we had 69 million 720 350 as registered voters.
Yes.
And 61 million 16,716 collected their PVCs.
So
that's about 88%. Okay. So that left us with 8,271,401 uncollected cards. Okay. Now, is this 8 million that Nigerians are not interested in collecting? Now, we started distribution in April 2017. Okay. Only 528,260 was collected out of the 8 million, leaving us with about 7,743,141. Now, this year, we have added another 3,981 cards. Those are the people that registered in 2017. Okay. So we added another 3 million to the cards. So we have about 11,705 cards in total. Now, the funny thing is, out of these 3 million, people that registered last year, we will not say that they are students or they have moved. These people that registered last year, only 593,963 have collected their PVCs. Like he said.
In aggregate, what is the outstanding figure of uncollected PVCs from 2015 to date?
11,131,156.
That's a large number. And just as Kingsley asked Mr. Awulmashi earlier, what accounts for this uncollected PVC? But just as you said also too, that these are some people who even registered just last year. Why can't they go and collect their PVCs?
And we have, like you said, we have increased the number of points. We have 1,446 centers that you can pick up your cards. Now, what the commission has also directed is that we should start calling or send text messages. All those that registered last year, we have their phone numbers. So those ones we can reach out to. But those that registered in 2015, most people do not drop their phone numbers. Only about 30% that we have their phone number. We are investing it. We want to start calling them because or send bulk SMS to them to come and pick it up. And then we have platforms to tell Nigerians where your cards are. And just for Nigerians to take advantage of all this.
What is that platform?
We have www.voterreg.inecnigeria.org. If you go to that site, it will ask you just for your surname, the state register, and your date of birth when you registered. Okay. Just supply those three, and you will see, if you are registered with INEC, you will see your card there, and it will tell you where you're pulling it, and where your state is, and where you can go and pick up your card. We also have on our website, we call it a PVC locator. All these things are there for Nigerians to take advantage of.
And yet, we have 11.13 million uncollected PVCs. Yes. Victoria Maya, from the perspective of Yaga, how worrisome is this?
I would say this is terrible because on one hand, we have a lot of clamor for getting your PVCs. Go get your PVCs. It's everywhere. Anything, whatever happens in Nigeria, we relate it to the PVCs. Go get your PVCs. So in history, I think this is a time where we've had more clamor to go get PVCs. Yeah. And I wonder why we're having so many of the PVCs uncollected. Some people will say apathy. Others will say confidence. A lot of people are still not confident that their votes will count. So they just sit down and say, why do I have to go queue on the long lines to get my PVCs when it wouldn't even count? Which brings back to INEC. There's a lot of pressure and a lot of responsibility placed on INEC as it is. A lot of people need reinforcing that their votes will count in 2019. Unfortunately, we still have a few number of people that have moved. It may not be a whole lot, but we still have that percentage of people that have moved and are finding it difficult to go do the transfer of their PVCs. However we look at it, it boils down to INEC. What is INEC doing to encourage people to get up from their homes and go collect their PVCs? Because there is this school of thought that believes if in 2019, because of the slow pace of the CVR this year that has been experienced, if in 2019 people do not come out to vote, a lot of people believe that it will not be for apathy. People believe it will be that INEC allowed itself to be sabotaged. Because as it is, if you have cloning of PVCs, buying. A lot of people complained. We put out helplines from Yaga in various states. So if you have issues at your collection center or registration centers, you call. So I would give INEC props for that, because each time we called INEC to say some registrants are experiencing issues in so and so centers, INEC immediately swings to action. But unfortunately, we still have some places in the states that still suffer from this slow pace. So a lot of people are daring to blame INEC for low turnout in 2019. And I hope that right now is the time for INEC to build its legitimacy.
How is that necessarily the problem of INEC? I mean, the message is viral. Like, that's the saturation, persuasion, if you like, with go get your PVC, go get your PVC. Yeah. And yet, we are seeing over 11 million uncollected PVCs. Is there something wrong with the messaging?
Yes. Well, I would say that it looks to me that the number of people that have not collected their PVCs are more interested in the election, or that have not registered, are more interested in the elections than those who have registered. And it's like he said, I think it's apathy. Apathy, some people are not interested. They just went to collect the PVCs because they thought, oh, I could use the PVC for some form of identification. And now maybe they have their, yes, they have their NIMSI, so...
NIMSI itself is also slow in releasing the national ID cards. Yes. Sodengi, Mr. Kasim Sodengi, what are your thoughts on these issues?
Well, I'll start by saying let's commend INEC, for CVR this year. I mean, this period, and the efforts are, stellar. But you see, the issue is there's a correlation between the simplicity of technology and its use, and then when it's done well, it reinforces integrity systems. That is why design is important. So if you look at the structure right now, there are physical systems, there are cards to collect, there's technology, there are localization of technology issues, then there are also human issues and things like apathy and whatever triggers them. Now, if you look at how technologies have evolved, what they've been able to do, while they've created new problems, but what they've done in essence is cure some of those issues of integrity, authentication, simplicity, remoteness, and this comes with harmonization. So while that's why technology, unlike a number of things within government, cannot be done in silos, you see. Even NIMSI, that you've mentioned NIMSI, these things need to be harmonized, and it has to be strategic from a vantage point. So that when you harmonize technology and agree on underlying technology, I say that if you look at the financial systems, it has never, I can arguably say in Nigeria, it has never been safer and easier. It is so nimble, and it is largely safe. You can deal with your transactions fairly confidently remotely. So there are also issues that you can import into electioneering going forward, but it requires systemic. So even if you've seen how the CBN has operated, of which they come to NIDA even for clearance and for conversations, you see that they've made transactions within banks seamless, the use of USSD codes. There are many things. Like I said, I won't be prescriptive because I haven't seen, but there are many things that can be done to really simplify so that you don't have to deal with the logistic difference of having a card sitting down somewhere and going forward and being on the database and being able to vote. There are things that can be done seamless. It requires investment, but in most cases, like with technology, there are one-off investments that would even out, or simply, one-time cost that can take care of. Is
it possible? I mean, considering the explanation given by Malam Marchi from Kaduna Network Studios, that you had some cases of forced registration or compulsive registration of otherwise underage voters, and now that the PVCs are available, the same underage voters are scared of stepping forward to come and collect their PVCs. That cannot be screened out.
Okay, I may not be able to comment, because I may not have deep knowledge on some of the areas of irregularity. But I know that, for instance, issue of underage voters, if there's a synchronization of databases, it becomes almost useless trying to, use underage voters, because you can double check and see, So those are some of the areas where NIDA will be strongly, looking towards. You see, what can we do to enhance the quality of your databases? We know some of it already goes on at some level, but it can be deeper. There can be a framework for oversight. And INEC databases can be used for other areas of national development, you see. It begins to even reduce, the pressure on population census. We're able to approach things better because of the availability of some of these databases. So for NIDA, it's just, what needs to happen is collaboration, cooperation, engagement on a deeper level, and then structuring. I mean, like I said, within what is available today, how far INEC has come, we commend them. But we think going forward, because that is what this conversation should be, going forward, what can be done? Those are the real questions that we would have to address, going forward.
All right, let's bring in Mr. Paul Aeze. What would you advise people who have moved from one state or the other to actually, in terms of collecting their PVCs? Because there has been complaint as to the process of sorting out their cards, that it is quite stressful, and what is being done to assist these people, because there's been a lot of movement from 2015. If you have just almost about 8 million from 2015 and then just 3 million from now, 2015, a lot of people have moved. That's about almost 3 years ago. What are you doing to assist them so that these kind of people can collect their cards? Because people have complained that the process is quite stressful.
Yeah, thank you. Before we go, I just want to react to what he said. Synchronization is already going on between NIMC, INEC, Immigration, driver's license, and FRC. The process is already on. And we have, each agency has given NIMC a sort of data to use to test run their own. INEC has, I think, we have given them about 20 million, because they couldn't take 20 million as a whole. So we're giving them in branches. I think we're giving them 5 million now. So synchronization is on. We want to know, it might not be used for 2019, but going forward, I'm sure all those things will be addressed. And for underage, because of the clamor, and like my colleague said, that it happened somewhere in Niger, now that we're forced to register underage. Now, the Commission is now planning a nationwide display, a kind of cleanup of the register. All these figures are brandishing. They are disease registrants on the register. So the Commission is now saying, okay, going forward, before the 2019 general election, there will be a cleanup. We will display the register. Nigerians are thereby appealed to go and check that register when we display. We will try as much as possible to go to the RA level. That's 8,809 centers. We cannot go 120,000 centers because of cost and the rest of them. Nigerians should please go there at that time and check. If your relation is dead, there's a form you fill to help us clean up that register. And if you think somebody's on register that is underage or that is not a Nigerian, we have also a form EC2 that you can fill to help the Commission clean up the register.
I'm wondering, how are you sending this message? Because just recently, INEC did something like that to you. Displayed the voter register not too long ago when you stopped, the registration for a while. And I tell you, a lot of people were not aware that they had to go and check if their names were actually there.
Every opportunity like this I will get, like this, we try to tell Nigerians. And we also have our CSOs, Yaga and the rest of them. They come to us and they understand this. After every registration is quarterly. After every quarter, there's a preliminary register of voter that is displayed. And Nigerians just have to go there and check. Nigerians even have right to ask for the register and then look at the register on your own, not only political parties. If you need register, just pay for it. We will give it to you. And then you can do whatever.
We'll pay for it again?
Of course, you have to be certified now. You have to pay. The law says you pay, I think, ₦1 per sheet. But we do soft copy now. We don't have to buy. If 1 million people need our register, we don't have to buy a drive for 1 million people now. They have to pay a token.
You won't have the budget for that in the first instance.
You have to pay a token for it. So these are things we are doing to help clean up the register. Okay, now coming about the people. Yes, sir.
Yeah, but tell us something more. You say that before the election, there will be a display to finally clean up. What timelines are you looking at?
We are looking at September, before we now do the final printing of the register. Between August and September, we have to do a final...
No, August is next month.
Yes.
Okay. And then when will the CVR end? That's the continuous voter register before the 2019
The law says 60 days. But because of all this cloning thing we are hearing, and you and I agree that we have to stop before that 60 days to have a perfect register. So what is going to happen? The commission very soon will come up with a date. I think after a lot of stakeholders meeting, they'll come up with a date that will stop.
And that's we're looking at about December, because 60
might be-
days
it should be
February
earlier than that.
should be earlier than
And
that.
What will happen, because part of the initial report we had was that INEC was planning to destroy, by incineration, the uncollected PVCs. Now, what will happen to the uncollected PVCs if they still remain in their millions?
Okay, I'm hearing that for the first time, the INEC will destroy. I can't confirm that. I heard it in your.
That's right.
in your
That's to say that
program.
by
Okay.
incineration. That's what.
But like he asked, what are we going to do to make sure that, to ensure that at least part of these 7 million cards are distributed? The 3 million cards, we believe that it's people that register within their locality. Those ones should go out and pick up their cards. The 7 million cards, what are we doing? Now, we have that website I just told you, www.voterreg.inecnigeria.org, and other platforms. We have the one that you can use your phone. What we are trying to suggest to commissioners is, if you see your card on that platform and you can print it, we can use that to transfer you, so as you don't have to go back to the place you registered before. But this has not been accepted. For now, you have to go to the place you registered before to pick up the card to come and transfer. But we are trying to see, like you said, technology should be seamless. How we can use technology to make it easy for them. So that's what we are planning.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Paul Ayeze. Let's take the tweets that we have now. This one is from Dele Jack Solomon. He said the cloning of the PVC shown online by an online platform is just a sign of what Nigeria is expecting regarding the 2019 election. The federal government needs to call on the owners of the platform, Alibaba.com, not to allow this platform to be used to thwart Nigeria's democracy.
Peter Achuba tweets, INEC cannot do it alone. All stakeholders must join hands to sanitize the process. Nigerians should reject sabotage in all forms.
Godwin Johnson says, what is the guarantee that the card readers will perform 100%? Because this is where cloning could be nipped. Will the incident form be used? I requested for a placement of my PVC over 4 months ago, and I have not heard from INEC if my PVC is ready for collection.
This is from Sunday Michael Amakoje. It says, we cannot continue to clamp down on institutions of good governance and expect to be credited by the international community. News about PVC cloning is evil. Now, the authorities must rise to fight this crime against our collective image and reputation.
And this one is from Ibrahim Dende Aminu. It says it's very unfortunate that Nigerian citizens over time always work hard to pull the roof down as soon as they notice the system is not favorable to them. Those are the tweets that we have now. But then, very quickly, let's go to our Kaduna Network Center where we have Mr. Awo Shashi. Mashi, I was going to ask you this question. How are you trying to ensure that your staff, they don't compromise this process? Because during the 2015 election, a lot of your staff were indicted for a lot of financial, issues, over 200 of them. How are you trying to ensure that in this election, your staff are not compromised?
We have this adage in Hausa. It is said, Gani gawane ya ishwanu tsoron Allah. Essentially, it is saying that what happens to your predecessor is enough for you. It's a good lesson enough for you to ensure that you do the right thing. I want to tell you that the commission staff know what is at stake. They know what is right and they know what is wrong, and they take lessons from what has happened previously. And believe me, all is going to be well. I can guarantee that as well.
Doing to ensure that your staff are not compromised? Because after the 2015 election, a lot of INEC staff were indicted for financial issues. What are you doing to ensure that this does not happen in 2019? I did, but I'd like to get your own perspective.
And that, I think I've told that line too. Nobody is happy that his colleagues on this kind of indictment. And we are all very careful now. We are ensuring that we are not even friends with the politicians. We don't expose ourselves to them to them to come and start discussing with us. So we are just being very careful now. We are just doing our job. That's all we do now.
Is anything done by the commission to enlighten your staff?
They do reorientation program. They have 1 or 2 training they take us to on all these things, and then they try on their own to let us know that the penalties are there, and then you do your work, and then I get your reward.
I don't know. Paul, yes, thanks. Let's, Kasim Sodengi, tell us something again about, of course, they say technology is the creation of human beings, and therefore human beings can also interfere with the efficacy of whatever technological device there is. Is it possible to reduce as much as possible human interference and therefore manipulation of technology with regard to our elections? The PVC we are talking about interfaces with the card reader, and from there, of course, you have all kinds of issues. So is it possible, to deal with potential human interference or manipulation, say, of the card reader?
Absolutely. That's, technology has been maligned, or rather, people have criticized it for its impersonality. It takes away the human, and this is exactly where it is useful. You see, and that's the challenge with the current architecture, where there are human points of injection across the use of technology. These things continue to happen. Like I said, it's the design. We've moved forward. We need to move further forward in that sense. Going forward, technology can take care of endpoint to endpoint. What it means is that it becomes, you can almost eliminate, and I'll use the word almost, because of, again, our political process, our evolution, investments in technology, and so on. But it's almost like if you're transferring money to me, one point to the other. I know it's not that simple, but it's a very close analogy. Technology can give us the opportunity to eliminate human interference and even eliminate some of the sort of exertions or the overbearing influence of politicians, who want to sort of influence elections. So we think that it's where to go, and we need to press harder and quicker to use technology in the way it ought to be used, and then minimize as much as possible. We know that there's also the issue of dealing with databases and so on, and that's the issue of cybersecurity. All that the processes exist to take care of that, but the electioneering itself, there are issues of broadband, but then again, if you look at what we're doing with USSD, that means if you look at the banking *737, there are many things that can be done, I would say at this time, that can minimize considerably the human interference, with either at the polling booth or with cards or with counting or, collation and so on, technology. So yes, technology can, improve the systems considerably from where we are, considerably.
All right, thank you very much, Kasim. Let's bring in again Victoria Maya. How, for instance, do we explain, we know that these are major population centers, Lagos and Kano, but Edo is also thrown into the mix, and you also have Oyo is also a higher population center. But from your findings at Yaga, what could account for this? There's a lot of population movement in and out of Lagos, for instance, but there's also a lot of settlement.
Yes, this is regards to the uncollected PVCs. Yes, for us at Yaga, we have realized from our observers on the field that several issues account for this. One of which is what you have mentioned, the movement. Secondly, apathy. Thirdly, we have inadequate voter education on some levels. As it is now, there are people that do not know that the PVCs are ready for collection. Others know, but do not know the centers to go collect the PVCs. So, like from the Twitter messages you read, someone said it is everyone's responsibility. So it's a Nigerian thing. We all have to put our hands on deck and make sure your neighbor has collected his PVC. I have people, my neighbors at home, that would ask me, oh, where do you think I can collect for? This was where I registered. One said, oh, I registered in Ogoja. I was working in Ogoja, and now I'm in Abuja. How do I go back to Ogoja? So there are people like that that are having the movement, the transfer issues. But then again, there are also people that know. I was in a salon, and the salonist said, well, I registered, but I don't know where to go collect. So we all hands have to be on deck. It is my responsibility, your responsibility, INEC's responsibility, everyone, to make sure that we conduct as much voter education as possible.
I'm wondering, Mr. Paul Ayeze, voter education is a critical aspect of this, but I know that it's not the sole responsibility of INEC. The political parties themselves, who are the ultimate beneficiaries of the utility of the PVC, also ought to be on the field. But from what we are hearing now with regard to the insufficiency of voter education, what will be the next steps for INEC?
The next step for INEC is to, normally, the commission plans to engage all stakeholders as from next week. And then from there, the CSOs they've been coming to our aid. We know the political parties have not been coming, the CSOs have been coming. And then development partners too have been really assisting. They've been really assisting to help us reach out on this voter education thing. So maybe the next step for us is to see how we can engage political parties to know that they too need to be part of this voter education awareness.
Malam Mashi in Kaduna, tell us something about voter education in your jurisdiction.
The issue of voter education is something that should be looked at holistically. I mean, the Commission has been trying all along. So much money is being expended in every state. We have, interaction with various radio and television stations and other media to ensure that voters are educated. So it's not an issue that should be looked at only from the perspective of Kaduna. But then, like you said, Kaduna is my constituency, and I know that we've been doing well. Just 2-3 days ago, I had a radio program here. In one of the radio stations, I think Liberty Radio here in Kaduna, and it's all to do with the voter education process.
What do you think can be done to improve voter education at this stage where we have a lot of uncollected PVCs?
So some of the efforts that are going, that are in already, is in the right direction. Those efforts are necessary, and then needs to be intensified. But I would say that I would urge INEC to use more influencers. There are influencers in society who sort of connect on more emotional and personal level with a number of voters, especially if you look at the youthful core. So I think that is one. I think that social media and technology also presents an opportunity for some kind of engagement. And you see, engagement need not be one way. Just go and collect your PVCs, it will change the country. There are other forms of engagement, that is a loop. So usually participation in engagement changes, perception faster than one-way transmission in engagement. So I think there are other creative ways that must be looked at also in designing engagements. I feel sometimes that what it is, there's a lot of effort. I think a little more creativity and nuance, engaging the voter on different aspects of even dealing with the fears at different levels or apathy. You can do that with communication easily, and then all ships rise with the same tide, you see. So I think that communication needs to be deeper. It needs to use technology. It needs to use social media and some other creative ways of, even polling, some feedback mechanism will really help, engagement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sodengi. Social media, I think so far what Mr. Maya was saying earlier, social media is awash with a lot of celebrities actually saying, come, go collect your PVCs.
They say go register.
Go register, go.
I think the next message should be go and collect
your PVC.
Be sure you have your PVC in your possession.
And then, if I may add, impact stories, will be connected impact stories from influencers. All
right, thanks a lot. So thank you. Let's take our last set of tweets. And we have a number of issues here that some of the guests will also respond to. Kange Linda tweets, my handbag was snatched along with my temporary voter's card. How do I get another one?
And this one is from Odwehi Joseph. It says, poor collection of PVC is due to INEC staff not being cooperative. Most people didn't have their temporary card. I have seen INEC staff without asking any question of my name, surname, place of registration to assist me.
And then this one is from a handle, says, woman is priceless. It's concerning collection of PVC. INEC can go a step further by sending SMS to people since phone numbers are included in the registration. This is what FIRS does for collection of permanent license. That's
and Uchenna Okoma says, please can Ms. Ayaze state again clearly the website on which we can locate our PVCs? Thank you.
Mayor tweets. Now, one of the reasons why some people lose confidence in INEC is the underage registration. Now, let the people believe that the election, of course, would be rigged.
And Big Jake says, I've moved from Lagos to Kaduna since 2014. Please, I have done card swap in Kaduna at Chikun local government. I want to know when I can get it.
Umar Sahid tweets, synchronization with other data capturing organizations is the best way to tackle the issue of underage voting, but it seems too late.
And Olani Kolawole says, please, in case of missing PVC, what is the solution? Mr. Paul Ayeze, I'd like you to speak to all the issues raised. People who have misplaced theirs. Of course, I know it's the same issue we're going back to. People who have misplaced theirs, the website where they can check, and people who have moved.
Okay. Now, for missing cards, you need to get police report or court affidavits.
Okay.
If you have that, if you have a photocopy of the PVC, attach it and go to any of our centers and then fill the incident form and a new card will be printed for you. Okay. If you don't have those information, then you might need to visit www.voterreg.inecnigeria.org and supply the information as earlier, your surname, the state register, and your date of birth. You can print that out, attach it to the affidavit or the police report, and then take it to any of our centers. If you don't know any of our centers, try and locate any of our local government offices. If you are in the state capital, then try and locate our state office and submit this document. I'm sure they will. You have a reprint card. Now,
how long does it take to get a reprint?
That's the small issue. We have to do the normal. We have to do normal check again, and the cards will only come out when other cards are coming out. For example, the people that registered in 2017, their cards are what we are distributing now. Those are the 3 million cards that we are distributing now. All those registering now will be printed before the general election, and to be printed along with it are all the people that ask for transfer, the missing, and everybody. The first quarter cards will be ready soon because we have done all the checks. We've done the office of that. We've done the business rule. And now if the people that ask for transfer, the replacement, if the replacement was done this year, then your card is not ready. But if it was done last year, of course, go to where you did that.
The one who had the card, the temporary card, snatched along with a handbag.
No, that one is the TVC that was snatched. You don't have a problem. Just approach our center. If it was last year, it was 2014. If it's 2014, go to the local government you register. Approach the electoral officer. They will give you a card because your picture is already on the register and your picture is on the card. You don't need an affidavit. Just go there. If it's a permanent voter's card, that's when you need an affidavit. But the temporary voter's card, you don't need an affidavit. Just go to our office. If your card is ready, they will issue it to you.
All right,
SMS, we're already doing. I told you that we're already doing SMS.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Paul Ayeze. He is the Deputy Director of Voter Registry at the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having
And also want to say a very big thank you to the Head of Administration and Human Resource at the Youth Initiative for Advocacy, Growth and Advancement, IAGA, Victoria Mania. Of course, thank you very much for joining us. And also a very big thank you to the National Coordinator for Office for Nigerian Content Development in ICT, a subsidiary of the National Information. Thank you very, very Technology Development Agency, NIDA Kasim Sodangi. Thank you so much for coming. And finally, our guest in Kaduna, Administrative Secretary of INEC in Kaduna State, Muhammad Awal Mashi. Thank you very much for coming on the program. All right, in sports, Belgium round up day 19 of the Russia 2018 World Cup with a spectacular comeback against Japan to reach the quarterfinals. Let's get more details from Daniel Aderie.
Roger Federer began his quest for a record-extending 9th Wimbledon men's